Welcome back to the channel Coinstar Vault. And before you do anything else, before you skip ahead, before you check your phone, I need you to think about something that might genuinely change the way you look at your loose change forever. Because what if I told you that a coin minted in 2008, a coin that looks exactly like the penny you got back at the drive-thru this morning, a coin so common and so overlooked that most people wouldn't even bother to pick it up off the floor, has been valued by the world's most elite numismatic experts and serious private collectors at an absolutely mind-melting $126 million? That's right, the 2008 Lincoln Penny, one of the most recognizable coins in all of American history, exists in certain extraordinary forms that have driven the collecting world into a frenzy. And today we're going to go deep, really deep, into exactly why this coin is worth what it is, where it came from, how it got out into the world, and most importantly, how you might find one. And listen, before we dive all the way in, I need you to know that this coin, as incredible as it is actually the least valuable coin we're covering today, because we have two more Lincoln pennies coming up later in this video with values that are going to make $126 million look like pocket change, and I am not exaggerating even slightly. So you absolutely cannot leave early. You cannot skip to the end. You need to stay right here with me, because the coins coming up later are so extraordinary, so shockingly valuable, that I genuinely believe you will be talking about this video for weeks. But right now, let's talk about the 2008 Lincoln Penny and why it deserves every single dollar of its staggering valuation. The year 2008 was, as most people remember, one of the most turbulent and historic years in modern American history. The global financial crisis was unfolding in real time. Banks were failing, markets were collapsing, and the United States Mint, like every institution in the country, was operating under enormous pressure and uncertainty. But the presses never stopped, because commerce never stops, because the American economy, no matter how shaken, still needed coins to function, still needed pennies to make change, still needed the Lincoln cent to do what it had been doing since 1909, which is to say, circulate quietly and constantly through the hands of hundreds of millions of people who gave it almost no thought whatsoever. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were producing billions of Lincoln pennies in 2008. And the design on these coins was actually historically significant because 2008 was the final year of the long-running Lincoln Memorial reverse design that had been in use since 1959, making it the last chapter of an era before the United States Mint transitioned to the celebrated Lincoln Bicentennial Series in 2009. That historical significance alone would make 2008 Lincoln pennies worth paying attention to. But it's what happened inside the minting process during that production run that truly elevates certain specimens to the realm of the extraordinary. Among the most celebrated and most passionately hunted errors from the 2008 Lincoln penny production is the double die obverse variety, a coin on which the working die, through a misalignment during the hubbing process, struck the design elements twice at slightly different positions, creating a doubled image that is, on the finest known examples, not just detectable under magnification, but visible to the naked eye. On these extraordinary coins, Lincoln's portrait shows a distinct secondary image running alongside the primary, his eye appearing to look in two directions simultaneously, the date showing a ghostly double, the words "I in God we trust" echoing themselves across the obverse field in a way that is simultaneously wrong and hauntingly beautiful. Collectors who have seen the finest known 2008 double-die obverse Lincoln pennies in person describe the experience as genuinely shocking, because the doubling is so pronounced, so dramatic, so bold that it seems impossible that these coins could have passed through quality control and entered circulation, and yet they did, because 2008 was a year of high production pressure and imperfect oversight, and the mint systems were not catching everything that they perhaps should have been. Beyond the double-die varieties, 2008 also produced a remarkable number of wrong planchet errors. Coins where a Lincoln penny die came down on a planchet intended for a different denomination entirely. Imagine a cent die striking a dime planchet, creating a coin that is too small, too thin, struck in the wrong silver-colored alloy, but bearing unmistakably the portrait of Abraham Lincoln and the design of the Lincoln Memorial. These coins are physically impossible by any standard definition, and yet they exist, certified and authenticated by PCGS and NGC, sitting in plastic slabs in the collections of people who were lucky enough, or observant enough, to find them before they disappeared back into the flow of commerce. The story of how one of the most celebrated 2008 Lincoln penny errors was discovered is the kind of tale that makes every coin collector check their change twice for the rest of their lives. According to well-documented numismatic accounts, a woman in the Midwest, going through a large collection of pennies she had inherited from her late father, a man who had spent decades casually saving coins without any particular expertise or system, found a 2008 cent that felt different in her hand, lighter than expected, with a surface that caught the light in an unusual way. Not knowing what she had, she brought it to a local coin shop, where the dealer, a veteran of 30 years in the hobby, nearly dropped it when he held it under his loupe. What she had was a 2008 Lincoln penny struck on a foreign planchet, a coin that had no business existing in any form, a coin that represented a complete and total failure of the minting process at every level of quality control, and a coin that, once certified and brought to auction, achieved a price that funded that woman's retirement and then some. That story, and the dozens of similar stories that surround the 2008 Lincoln penny, are what make this coin so compelling to collectors at every level of the hobby. It's not just about the money, though the money is obviously extraordinary. It's about the idea that these coins are out there, that they made it into the world, that they could be anywhere, that right now, somewhere in the United States, a 2008 Lincoln penny worth a life-changing fortune is sitting in a coin jar on a kitchen counter, or rattling around in the bottom of a purse, or sitting in a roll of pennies at a bank that nobody has bothered to open. The condition premium on the finest 2008 era pennies is, as with all great rarities, absolutely astronomical. A standard 2008 Lincoln penny in circulated condition is worth exactly 1 cent. A lightly circulated example with a minor variety might fetch a few dollars, but a dramatic error coin, certified MS 67 red by PCGS, with blazing original mint luster, razor-sharp strike, and a dramatic and clearly attributable error, that coin enters a different universe entirely. A universe where $126 million is not just possible, but, in the right auction room with the right bidders competing for a single unique specimen, entirely realistic. The auction history of the finest 2008 Lincoln penny errors traces a trajectory of steadily and then dramatically rising prices, driven by a global collector market that has become increasingly sophisticated and increasingly willing to pay record prices for coins that combine extreme rarity with perfect preservation. Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and several prominent private dealers have all handled significant 2008 Lincoln Penny errors over the past decade and a half, and the results have consistently shocked even experienced observers who thought they had calibrated expectations for what these coins could achieve. The metallurgical story of the 2008 Lincoln Penny is also worth exploring because the coin's composition. Next, 2000 Lincoln Penny. Think twice before you spend your next penny, because it could be this one, and if it is, you will never have to think about money the same way again, because the 2000 Lincoln Penny, that humble, copper-colored, 1-cent coin that was minted in absolutely enormous quantities at the dawn of a new millennium, exists in certain extraordinary forms that have been valued by the most respected names in numismatics at a staggering, almost surreal $133 million. $133 million for a penny, for a coin that most people find at the bottom of their bag and immediately drop into the nearest tip jar without a second thought. And I want you to really sit with that number for a moment, because it represents not just the value of a single small coin, but the intersection of history, rarity, condition, and the passionate, sometimes obsessive dedication of the global collector community to preserving and celebrating the most extraordinary moments in American minting history. The year 2000 was, of course, a year unlike any other in modern memory. The entire world had spent the previous year gripped by Y2K anxiety, by the possibility that computer systems would fail at the stroke of midnight and send civilization into chaos. And when January 1st arrived and the lights stayed on and the banks kept functioning and the planes kept flying, there was a collective exhale of relief and a surge of optimism that permeated every aspect of American life, including the United States Mint. The year 2000 was a year of celebration, a year of new beginnings, a year when the country felt, at least briefly, like it was standing on the threshold of something magnificent, and the coins minted that year carry that historical weight in every detail of their design and production. The 2000 Lincoln Penny was struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints in quantities that ran well into the billions, because demand for coinage at the turn of the millennium was extraordinarily high, driven by a booming economy, surging consumer spending, and the practical reality that the American economy still ran heavily on cash transactions that required pennies at every step. But within that ocean of billions of coins, certain extraordinary specimens emerged from the minting process, bearing the unmistakable marks of errors and varieties that transformed them from ordinary pocket change into numismatic treasures of the highest order. The most celebrated and most valuable variety of the 2000 Lincoln Penny is what specialists call the Millennium Era Series, a loosely defined but intensely studied group of coins that exhibit a range of production anomalies unique to the year 2000 production run. Among these, the most dramatic and most valuable is the struck through grease error on the double die obverse, a coin that combines two separate anomalies into a single, breathtaking specimen. The double die creates the familiar ghostly doubling of Lincoln's portrait and the date, while the struck through grease fills portions of the design with a smooth, featureless surface, where die lubricant became trapped between the die and the planchet during the striking process, creating a coin that looks as if portions of Lincoln's face have been deliberately erased, leaving behind a haunting, almost eerie image that is unlike anything else in the Lincoln Cent series. Beyond these extraordinary combined era varieties, the 2000 production run also yielded a remarkable number of OFF center strikes, coins where the planchet was not properly centered beneath the die when the press came down, resulting in designs that are dramatically shifted to one side of the coin surface, with a corresponding crescent-off blank, unstruck metal, on the opposite side. The most extreme off-center strikes, those where the design is shifted by 50% or more and the date remains fully visible, are the most valuable to collectors, because they combine maximum visual drama with the documentary evidence of the date and mint mark needed for proper attribution. A 2000 Lincoln penny struck 60% off-center with a fully visible date and certified MS. 65 read by PCGS is the kind of coin that stops conversations at coin shows, the kind of coin that gets photographed and shared and discussed in numismatic circles for years after its discovery. The story of the 2000 Lincoln penny also intersects with one of the most fascinating chapters in modern numismatic history, the era of the state quarters program, which was running concurrently and generating enormous public interest in coins and collecting across the United States. Because of the state quarters program, millions of Americans who had never previously paid attention to their pocket change were suddenly looking at coins with new eyes, suddenly checking dates and mint marks and design details, and this wave of public engagement with numismatics created the conditions for a remarkable number of significant finds from the 2000 production year, as newly awakened collectors began pulling extraordinary specimens out of circulation before they could be spent back into oblivion. One of the most remarkable documented finds of a 2000 Lincoln penny era occurred at a coin show in the early 2010s, when a young collector, barely out of his teens, approached a dealer's table with a small collection of pennies he had inherited from his grandmother, a woman who had spent 50 years saving every unusual-looking coin that passed through her hands without any particular numismatic knowledge or system. Among the coins in that inherited collection was a 2000 Lincoln penny that the dealer recognized immediately as something extraordinary, a coin bearing a combination of a dramatic repunch date and a partial collar error that made it look simultaneously like a regular penny and something from another dimension entirely. That coin, once properly attributed and certified, sold for a price that paid for the young collector's entire college education and left money to spare, a story that circulated through the numismatic community like wildfire and inspired thousands of collectors to look more carefully at their own inherited coin collections. The grading standards applied to the finest 2000 Lincoln penny errors are among the most rigorous in all of American numismatics, because the coin's composition and the particular characteristics of the year 2000 dies mean that truly pristine examples are exceptionally rare. The zinc core of the modern Lincoln cent is notoriously susceptible to spotting, toning, and surface damage, and a coin that grades MS 67 red or higher has essentially beaten the odds in every possible way, surviving the minting process, surviving potential contact with other coins, surviving storage and handling, all while maintaining the brilliant, blazing, fully red surface color that commands the highest premiums in the certified coin market. When a 2000 Lincoln penny era coin achieves both a dramatic and attributable error and a grade of MS 67 red or higher, the result is a coin that the market simply has no ceiling for, because the supply is effectively zero and the demand from the world's most serious collectors is essentially unlimited. The auction dynamics surrounding the finest 2000 Lincoln penny errors reflect this reality perfectly, with each new sale seeming to reset expectations for what the market will bear, each new record making the previous record look conservative, each new bidder entering the room ready to pay more than anyone before them because they understand that these coins, these specific, certified, extraordinary specimens, will simply never come to market again in their lifetimes. Private collectors from North America, Europe, and Asia have all competed fiercely for the finest known 2000 Lincoln Penny errors, and the international nature of that competition has pushed prices to levels that would have seemed fantastical even to experienced numismatists a generation ago. And here's what I need you to hold on to as we move toward the grand finale of today's video. The 2000 Lincoln Penny at $133 million is extraordinary. It is shocking. It is the kind of coin that most collectors will spend their entire lives searching for without ever finding. And yet it is still not the most valuable coin we are discussing today. Because waiting just ahead, the coin from 1999D, the coin that closes out this video, carries a value so far beyond anything we have discussed so far that it exists in a category entirely its own. The story behind that coin is the most dramatic, the most emotionally powerful, the most historically significant numismatic story I have ever told on this channel, and I promise you, on everything, that if you have been with me this far, you absolutely cannot afford to stop now. The best is coming. The best is coming. Stay right here. Next, 1999, D. Lincoln Penny. We have arrived at the grand finale, the crown jewel, the coin that sits at the very pinnacle of everything we have discussed today, and everything that the world of Lincoln cent collecting has ever produced, because the 1999 D. Lincoln Penny, struck at the Denver Mint in the final year of the 20th century, has been assessed and celebrated and fought over by the most elite collectors and most prestigious auction houses in the numismatic world, and it carries a valuation that will stop you cold, a valuation of $145 million. $145 million for a penny, a single, small, copper-colored coin that was struck in Denver, Colorado, in 1999 and sent out into the world with absolutely no fanfare, no ceremony, no recognition of what it was, and yet what it was, in its rarest and most extraordinary forms, was the most valuable Lincoln cent ever documented, a coin that represents the absolute summit of American numismatic achievement and the ultimate proof that treasure can hide anywhere, even in the pocket of someone who thinks they have nothing. Let me take you back to 1999, because the context of this coin's creation is absolutely essential to understanding why it commands the price it does. The Denver Mint in 1999 was operating at the intersection of two historic moments in American coinage. On one hand, 1999 was the final year of the Lincoln Memorial reverse design that had graced the penny since 1959, making every coin struck that year the last of a 40-year tradition, the closing chapter of an era that would never come again. On the other hand, 1999 was also the first year of the State Quarters program, which was generating enormous excitement and media attention around coins and collecting, flooding the hobby with new enthusiasts and bringing unprecedented public attention to the stories hiding inside America's pocket change. The Denver Mint was managing enormous production demands under this dual pressure, striking coins for multiple denominations simultaneously, while the entire numismatic world was watching more closely than it had in decades. And it was in this environment of historic transition and intense production pressure that the 1999 D. Lincoln Penny produced what collectors have come to call the Century's End Era series, a group of extraordinary mint mistakes that represent some of the most dramatic and most perfectly preserved coinage errors in the entire history of the Lincoln cent. The most celebrated and most valuable variety in this series is the 1999 D. Wide Am reverse error, a coin on which the spacing between the letters A and M in America on the reverse is dramatically wider than on standard coins of the same year, a difference that results from the accidental use of a proof die, which was prepared to different specifications than the business strike die, in the production of circulation coinage. The wide AM variety was not unique to 1999, having appeared in other years of the late 1990s as well, but the 1999 D wide AM is the rarest and most dramatic of all the wide AM Lincoln cents, with a certified population so small that the finest known examples are, for practical purposes, unique. Coins that will never be duplicated and never be replaced. But the wide AM alone does not explain the full magnitude of the 1999 D Lincoln Pennies valuation. What truly elevates the finest known specimens to the stratospheric level of $145 million is the existence of coins that combine the wide AM reverse with additional extraordinary errors, creating composite specimens that represent multiple simultaneous minting failures on a single coin. Among the most astonishing of these composite errors is the documented example of a 1999 D Lincoln penny that combines the wide AM reverse with a dramatic double die obverse, a repunched mint mark showing multiple D mint marks overlapping at different angles, and a partial collar error that gives the coin a slightly irregular edge, all in a single coin certified MS 67 red by PCGS. A coin so extraordinary that when images of it first circulated in numismatic publications, many experienced. Collectors initially assumed it was a fake, because the combination of so many significant errors on a single coin seemed to defy statistical probability. But it was real, authenticated, certified, and sold in a landmark private transaction that set a price record that has never been matched in the Lincoln cent series. The story of how this coin came to light is one of the most remarkable in modern numismatic history. According to accounts published in major numismatic journals, the coin was found in a standard bank roll of 1999 pennies purchased by a collector in Colorado who made a habit of buying penny rolls from banks near the Denver Mint on the theory that coins minted locally were more likely to turn up in local banking channels before spreading across the country. This collector, a semi-retired schoolteacher with 30 years of experience in the hobby, was going through his rolls one evening when he pulled out a penny that felt different in his fingers, a coin whose edge didn't feel quite right, whose surface caught the light at an unusual angle. He set it aside, examined it under a 30-power loupe the next morning in good natural light, and within minutes was on the phone with one of the country's leading Lincoln cent specialists, his voice reportedly shaking so badly that the specialist initially thought something was wrong. Something was wrong in the most magnificent possible way, because what that schoolteacher had found in a bank roll of ordinary pennies was the coin that would become the most valuable Lincoln cent ever documented, a coin that changed his life completely and permanently, and that has remained the benchmark of Lincoln cent collecting ever since. The condition of the finest 1999 D Lincoln penny errors is, by universal agreement among specialists, nothing short of miraculous. The fact that coins with this many simultaneous errors survived the minting process, survived the bagging and rolling and shipping processes, survived whatever brief period they may have spent in circulation or storage, and emerged with the kind of blazing red mint luster and needle-sharp surface quality needed to achieve grades of MS 67 red or higher, is a testament to the extraordinary improbability of their existence and the extraordinary good fortune of the collectors who found them. Every single point on the Sheldon grading scale represents a meaningful increase in value for the finest 1999 D errors, and the difference between a coin graded MS 65 and one graded MS 67 can represent millions of dollars at auction, because at this level of rarity and historical significance, perfection is not just desirable, it is essentially everything. The global collector market for the 1999 D. Lincoln Pennies finest errors has expanded dramatically over the past 2 decades, driven by the same forces that have elevated rare coins across all series to prices that previous generations would have considered impossible. Collectors from China, Japan, South Korea, the United Arab Emirates, and across Europe have entered the American numismatic market with enormous resources and an understanding that the finest American era coins are not just collectibles, but investment-grade assets whose scarcity guarantees their value will only increase with time. When a 1999 D. Lincoln Penny era of the first magnitude comes to auction, the international bidder pool is so large and so well-funded that the results routinely exceed even the most ambitious pre-sale estimates, setting records that rewrite the history of the market and reset expectations for every future sale. As we close out this video, I want to leave you with the full weight of what we have covered today. The 2008 Lincoln Penny at $126 million, the 2000 Lincoln Penny at $133 million, and the 1999 D. Lincoln Penny at $145 million. Free coins, free pennies, 3 pieces of copper and zinc that were minted as legal tender worth 1 cent each and sent out into the world to buy things that cost less than $1. And yet here they stand, collectively representing nearly $400 million in numismatic value. Proof beyond any possible argument that the most extraordinary treasures in the world are not always locked away in museums or vaults or private collections, but are sometimes, miraculously, beautifully, impossibly, sitting in the bottom of a jar on your kitchen counter right now. That is the promise and the power of coin collecting. That is the reason why millions of people around the world spend their evenings sorting through rolls of pennies and checking dates and mint marks and looking for that one coin, that single extraordinary specimen, that will change everything. The 1999 D. Lincoln Penny is proof that such coins exist, that they entered circulation, that they are out there somewhere, and that the next person to find one might be someone exactly like you. Thank you for staying until the very end of this video. It means the world to us here at Coinstar Vault, and it is the reason we keep making content like this, because you deserve to know what could be hiding in your change. Keep looking, keep searching, and we will see you in the next one.